Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
May 2nd, 2022. Who would have guessed that trying to smash together a teen sitcom and a medical drama would result in 4 people sitting down 33 years later to talk about it on a podcast? Hello and welcome to Those Were the Days, the show that looks at nostalgic TV through modern eyes. I am this week's host, Amy Frost, and I'm joined, as always, by Travis.
Hi.
Audie.
Hello.
And Steven.
Hey.
So this week, we are talking about a favorite show from my childhood that I definitely have not watched since that time. Doogie Howser, MD. So I want to start. First of all, like as we tend to do. What was your history with this show and like medical dramas in general? Because I feel like that's like its own sort of genre. And quite frankly, not a thing I'm into. So the fact that I watched this show is surprising to me now as a grown-up. But it's definitely, that's definitely its own flavor. So Steven, how about you?
Yeah. So medical dramas, not my thing. I skipped out on the ER and the what's that anatomy? Grey's Anatomy. I didn't watch
Grey's
that.
Anatomy.
I haven't watched much the hospital stuff. Like I'm not really a fan of procedurals anyway. But the
Sure.
one that did grab me and I watched season after season was Dr. House. So if I have any history, it's with House, which I loved. But I did not watch Doogie Howser. I did see an episode with my parents once. Like I vaguely remember this show on TV, and every time we
Sure.
do an episode, my
It
mom,
was like a cultural thing.
yeah,
Doogie. Like, I mean, you were like, if you were a smart kid, you were a real Doogie Howser. Like
yes,
that was a thing.
yeah, it was used as a verb, sort of. It's a very
I
descriptive
saw
word.
somebody say something about it, but call them a young Sheldon, and I was like, well,
Eh,
we've come a long way from there, haven't we?
we sure have.
Mhm.
But I do remember watching one episode, and it happened at some point in this episode. Not getting too far into it, but the only episode I remember is they hit a deer on a back road, like him and his mom or something. And there's a deer inside the other deer because it's a pregnant deer, and he has to hop out of the car and run to the deer and birth it on the highway. That's the only episode of Doogie
Wow.
Howser I remember, and the only scene I remember. Everything else is just a
I
blur.
mean, I can see why that would stick with you, though.
Yeah,
It's like
I mean,
Milo
that's
and Otis.
memorable.
You just remember it.
Oh, wow. Audie, how about you?
I definitely remember watching this as kind of like we did as a family, I think. So, like, the theme song, like, as soon as I hear it, it's like, I know
Yeah.
in my head, like it just goes. And then after that, I got hooked on the ER at some point. I remember specifically the episode where, um, oh, what's his name? George Clooney as Doug goes to rescue some kid out of a storm drain in the middle of like a
Yep.
river or something. I remember
Yep.
that's the one that hooked me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I started watching it and got into it. Um, and then I think that's pretty much it as far as medical dramas.
Yeah.
I can't think of much of any others that I got into at all. Um, but yeah, Doogie Howser was a thing in my house for sure.
Travis, how about you?
So medical dramas, not really my thing. I didn't watch ER or Chicago Hope or Grey's Anatomy, which is just a primetime soap opera set in a hospital. It's just not my thing. House being the exception because House is just a loose retelling of Sherlock Holmes, and I love Sherlock Holmes, so that's a little different. But no, like medical dramas weren't really my thing. And I remember Doogie Howser. I remember the exact thing. He's a real Doogie Howser, and the cultural part of it. I didn't watch the show a lot, so I couldn't tell you much about it. I remember Doogie. I remember the kid that plays his best friend.
Vinny.
Vinny, and then his dad. For some reason, I always remembered like that actor is Doogie Howser's dad. It was
Okay.
one of those. But outside of that, not a ton of memory of the show itself. It is funny though that Audie mentions the theme song because it is a memorable theme song, but of the 4 shows that we've done this month, it is the least memorable
And the
theme
and
of
the
the 4 of
worst
them.
is
It
definitely
it
something that I would have played on my Casio keyboard.
that watching it, that was exactly
I
what I
was like,
thought. I'm
"Oh,
like,
no.
I remember
Someone paid
having a
money for
keyboard.
this."
Yeah, I remember having a keyboard that had that sound that you could
Mhm.
get, and, like, maybe it was some sort of leftover thing from having seen, the intro to this show, but I remember trying to play that because 'cause I'm like, "I could play that. This sounds exactly like it."
It
Yep.
reminded me of there was a series of games, Humongous Entertainment put out these adventure games when I was a kid, and it reminded me of the Putt Putt Goes to the Moon theme. Like,
Yes.
just
Yes.
it was the same exact sound. It was like 8
Mhm.
bitty or 16-bit if we're gonna get
It's
fancy.
not good.
But yeah, it was not okay. You said soap opera, and it made me remember there was one other medical drama I was into, and that was General Hospital, which was not
There
about a
you
hospital.
go.
But one
Ooh.
summer,
Right.
right before college, I got real into General Hospital because I had nothing to
I
do during
feel
the
like
day. That was it.
there's something about college because when I went to college, it was like my first time away from home, and the girl who lived across the hall was from Mexico, and we used to watch Mexican soap operas. And now I don't speak a word of Spanish, so she like the first like week we watched, she would fill me in on what was happening, and then I needed no further translation because it is a soap opera and it is not required.
Nope.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that's
So
great.
great.
good.
Okay, here's a random funny thing I'm just noticing. I'm looking at medical dramas. None of us mentioned Scrubs at all.
Oh yeah, that's not
Yeah,
really
I
a
And I feel like
drama
that's
though, right?
no, but it's a medical
well,
show. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
it's still a
and
medical show. I mean,
but it's like calling MASH a medical drama because it's not really a medical drama, but it could fall into that category,
yeah.
somebody's loose
right.
interpretation. So I watched MASH and I did watch Scrubs. I like Scrubs,
Okay.
but
Brother.
I don't look at that as the same thing as like an ER or Chicago Hope or
Hmm.
Right.
why I know those like the name Chicago Hope. I have no idea. I guess it's just I
Right.
saw way too many promos for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a
Hmm.
lot of Chicago things. Chicago Med, Chicago PD,
Hmm.
Chicago Fire. Lots of crap happens in Chicago
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
city-run departments.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's
know
true.
for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
pretty sure ER is actually in Chicago too. So
I'll bet it is. New York
Yeah.
and Chicago, the two places you can do stuff.
Yep.
Well,
They're
it's New
all
York is where
filmed
you
in
set your
LA.
police. Yeah, you set your police procedurals in New York. You set your
hmm
medical ones in Chicago,
Yep.
and that's just how it goes. And then your comedies are all in LA.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
So we're gonna go through this episode, and then at the end, we are gonna talk about whether we think this was a good pilot or not. Um, but we'll get there. So it this episode in particular, I mean, I didn't watch more than this, but this episode did a lot of check boxes in the old 80s, 90s sitcom tropes, right?
Mhm.
So we've got teenage kid getting a driver's license. Good. We've got the friend that comes in through the window, which I always wanted, like, the friend that comes in through the window. I never had friend who comes in through the window, and that was, like, definitely an expectation I had based off of television,
Yeah,
'cause
Clarissa
that was a
Explains
thing
It
I should
All
have.
was my first exposure to coming in through the window because Sam would come up the ladder and then being
Right,
like,
and there
Yep.
was
hmm
I wanna say Screech did it in
mm-hmm,
Saved by the Bell, and, like,
Yeah.
there's just it's
Yeah.
always and then, Boy Meets World, he was
yeah,
always
Yep.
coming
yeah.
in through the
Oh yeah.
window.
Living room
No,
sets are
it's you gotta have,
expensive.
like, the friend yeah, the friend who comes in through the window.
Yeah, because if you shoot them going into the house and into the it costs a lot of money. So let's give
Yeah,
them
exactly.
a
Y
separate ingress point of the window.
you
So
got dad who doesn't wanna let you borrow the car,
Mhm.
yeah, we got to
Yeah.
go there.
which is good. Yeah, oh, yeah, no, we're gonna get into that relationship a
Okay.
little bit. So our cold open is a traffic jam behind a slow-moving vehicle that we find out is Doogie Howser taking his driving exam. And the driving instructor who is straight out of Central Casting
Yeah.
is
Oh,
like
hmm
yeah.
telling him what a good job he's doing and all that. And like that's fine. So he's about to pass his driving exam, really. And he sees up ahead that there's an accident. Now, now, Duke, buddy, there's already lights on scene, man. You're good. Like, Don't even worry about it. But no, hero child has to go save this man's leg, which it's it's all fine. My favorite part of this scene, though, is that you can hear someone in the background say, "Well, he seems to know what he's doing."
That's me. What you're hearing is me. Anytime someone who goes, it's like, well, they seem like they got it. Wanna go get a
Yeah, see,
sandwich?
my personal reaction in an emergency situation, if I am not if I'm not the only person in an emergency situation, like if there are other my best work is to get out of the way. Like the best thing that I can do is
Yep.
remove myself from the situation. You don't want me around in an emergency. It's fine. Um yeah, but the whole and they're like, "What are you doing?" Then he's like tells the cop he's gonna be charged with criminal negligence if he doesn't let him fix this dude's leg.
Flashes his medical
Yeah, the
badge.
cojones on this
Oh, yeah.
16-year-old. Like,
It's
holy
real
moly.
good.
Yeah.
Real good.
And like
I
obnoxious because he's 16
oh yeah.
and I'm a grown up and I'm like, you need to settle down.
Settle down.
So I loved this cold open for an entirely different reason though, and that is that the driving instructor is the greatest driving instructor ever. Like
Oh, yeah.
he
Oh, yeah.
cracked me up. And then the two cops that are on scene are both character actors you've probably seen in other things, including the one with the mustache was Neil Flynn, the janitor from
Mhm.
Scrubs.
Holy moly. Didn't even
Yeah.
notice.
That was him, and yep. And then the other one was Jeremy Roberts, another kind of character actor that pops up in like any TV show. Like he just apparently just wanders LA onto sets, and they're like, "All right, he's here, let's film him." But yeah, I saw Neil Flynn immediately, and I was like, "Well, okay, there's him." Like I
Mhm.
recognize that face.
I love
Can't
that
hide it
you
behind that horrible
I love that
mustache.
you mentioned the driver's ed teacher because my first note is the driver's ed teacher is kind of a butthole. It's like just my observation
He's
right
so-
out the gate.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure that nowadays you gotta have like somebody with you. I'm pretty sure that's like the rule.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're not even
Mhm.
supposed to be here, ma'am." Watching your child
Oh
with
yeah,
a
no,
stranger.
definitely. Nowadays it's a liability thing. You got to have a
Yeah, you
parent or
gotta
guardian or
have
someone there.
somebody.
Yeah.
I just loved the way that he over enunciated everything, including
Everything.
exacerbate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good.
I was gonna cut in Sean from Shaun of the Dead saying, "What does exacerbate mean?" But I couldn't get it to match up well enough.
So then we get the open after that, right? I
Mhm.
think. My
Mhm.
notes are bad.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
So I do like the opening theme song aside as the thing that my sister and I definitely played on our Casio keyboard. I am a sucker for like the message board, like the bulletin board and the
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, big sucker for that.
The montage to tell you the
Mhm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
It's visual
So
storytelling. You only have
It's
24
very
minutes.
good. Yeah, and so we do also have the other mechanism we have to get around that is we have Doogie's diary, his electronic journal,
Yep.
which is another expectation that I definitely had for my computing life that I did keep a live journal for quite a while. So I guess I did get there eventually, but
Oh
um,
yeah. I've had one
so
since
we find out
2005. It's still rocking and rolling. Not a live
heck
journal,
yeah.
but you know.
So we find out that there's the dance coming up and there's a girl and we like her and we're gonna kiss her after we lick her earlobe. Teenage
Not-
boys are
not
so
her earlobe.
dumb.
He said something entirely different.
Well, he said it in that was a good bit. That was a
Yeah.
good bit. Was
Uh-huh.
in
That
public.
was funny because the reaction from Vinny, "You're gonna do that in public?"
Public?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what that means. You don't know.
The
But the
pervert
dumb
meter
teenage
was just on
It was
it was
high.
at the roof when those kids walked in, and it was more off-putting to me because I didn't realize we were walking into the plot of American Pie, like right out of the gate, episode 1, Doogie
Vinny's
Howser
like, "I'ma
ABC
get it."
show. Like,
Listen, Vinny would have had sex if he hadn't thrown up on that girl's shoes.
yeah,
Which I do
Hey.
agree. I would also not sleep with somebody that threw up on my shoes.
I wasn't
so
ready
I
for
did
the
watch
drop.
further.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
did watch further. Vinny doesn't change.
No.
Don't change Vinny.
No,
Don't.
Like,
It's
never.
not broke. Don't fix
Look,
it.
look.
It's good.
3 of the 4 of us were once 16-year-old boys. Okay, we all went through that phase at some point in our life.
I had to deal with
I
16-year-old
would have just
boys.
peed my pants.
That that's the next thing is the 4th of us had to deal with all the
It's
16-year-old boys.
not
So
good.
look, it's not good from either side of that
No.
equation. You got the worst end of it.
Mhm.
I will say that, but
Which-
yeah,
Just idiots all around, though.
Yeah.
It's very good.
totally.
I just wasn't ready for
Um,
the sex word right out of the gate either. I was like, wait, what is this
Yeah.
show? Right? They're not even
Right
playing.
there.
This is 1992 or whatever. When did this show come out? I didn't do it.
1989.
89.
But here's the thing. Did you notice the 2 names of the writers / creators of this show? The 2 names were
Well.
Stephen Bochco and David E. Kelly.
Yeah.
They are responsible for LA Law,
Mhm.
NYPD Blue, Boston
Oh,
Legal, Ally
Yeah.
McBeal. Like
yeah.
their fingerprints are all over the writing of this show. And I noticed that right away. I'm like, okay, now it makes
Mhm.
sense why the material is the way that it is. These are the same guys that made all these other shows.
They made
So
the
that was
same
one of the
show
other
with a kid in it.
questions. That was one of the
Mhm.
other questions that I had was who is this show for? Because
Yeah.
I don't know that I know.
Mm-mm.
I still
I'm
don't
not-
know that I know. I don't know who they thought it was for, and I don't know who I think it's for.
No,
Because
I'm
that's
not entirely sure.
it's
I'm
too
pretty
much
sure
for
we
kids
got
and too
away with
young for
watching it.
adults or something.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I think we got
Is
away
it-
with watching it as kids. I don't
Yeah.
think my parents were in the room because they would have turned this off if they heard some of this crap.
That's what I'm saying, right? Is it literally just for 16-year-old boys? Is
Yeah.
this the target market?
Apparently,
It
yes.
just fits.
Maybe.
I could be smart if I applied myself.
But I am not going to because look
Well,
at how
just-
much he has to deal with.
Yeah, like oh yeah, we're gonna get into that too.
Mhm.
Sure.
So we've established. All right, so Doogie's gonna get his first kiss. This is great. All right, we got a plan. Vinny's gonna get lucky.
Yeah, it is.
So he says.
And so now we have to establish Doogie's work life. And so then we meet the little kids in
Oh.
a hospital, and it's never okay, guys.
Mhm.
But there are little kids in a hospital. So first of all, the water gun fights with these 2 little kids on the other side of the room. That was very good.
The
Mhm.
giggles were off-putting.
good
I'm
too.
not gonna lie. I felt like haunted house kid giggles. I'm like, what are we doing
Kids
here?
are creepy.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. I'm not gonna deny that.
I'm like, whoa, that was weird.
So we meet the kid who needs he needs a heart transplant. And Doogie gets into it with so apparently Doogie is a 2nd-year resident, which I don't know that we actually get this information anywhere other than the Wikipedia, but here we are.
I think the opening has a
Is it
clip
on
of
the
him
thing?
starting at the hospital.
All right. So he gets into it with the other doctor whose name is now escaping me.
No, I don't remember.
And about how the kid is not strong enough for a transplant. Like we need to stabilize him before
Mhm.
transplant. And it's like a back and forth thing, right? And so he's talking to the kid, and the kid's like, am I gonna die? And Doogie's
Oh.
like, don't even worry about it, little guy. Don't worry, little brother. Like you're fine. And Doogie talks about how he was real sick, and he lost all his hair, but it's okay because that man won't be a doctor. And I feel like there's a little bit of I feel like in different hands, this show could have been well, he went through chemo, and that's what made him so smart. I feel like in other hands, that could have gone that way.
He's a
I'm glad it
superhero
didn't.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fine line that we were walking.
I was gonna say that's the part where I bumped because I definitely had a friend in high school who went through leukemia,
Yeah,
and it was rough. And he made
Yeah.
it out, but it was rough. And so I'm thinking, how did Doogie Howser do all that and make it through
And
high school in
right,
9 weeks and
like
medical school and
he was
Okay.
busy
Good
doing
job,
other
writers.
things.
Well,
I feel like
You could.
I feel like if I was sick at a young age, my priorities would have shifted somewhat.
Maybe he didn't really. Does that establish further in the series that he did, or is he just maybe saying something to a kid to make him feel better? You know, like I mean, we don't know.
That I
think,
don't know
I mean,
because
Yeah.
I
it's
only
in the
watched this in the next
Wikipedia,
episode.
Oh, okay.
so
Yeah.
It was in the Wikipedia. There, okay.
it was in the
Someone's done the
Wikipedia.
research.
In so much as I went to the Wikipedia. It was not.
They
We're
have
not
to
high
cite
level
sources,
research here.
man. So you know,
They do.
yeah.
So that's like all weird. And then my timeline is all off now. Oh, so we have dinner at Doogie's house, right? Is that
We
next?
had him
Right.
pitch a fit
Uh,
about the heart thing, and I think it's
Right.
important to note that the one doctor wanted to do the transplant now, and Doogie was like, he
Yeah.
needs a valve
Mhm.
because his kidneys. He said renal
Yeah.
failure, but I'm married to a pharmacist, so I know that meant kidneys.
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
there. Yeah.
Yep.
See?
The other doctor was Dr. Josephson, by the way.
There it is.
Thank you.
And he was, and then he pulled. Oh, this is what I wanted to get to in that scene. He pulled the "You're not my real dad."
You're
on
not my real
on
dad.
the
Don't
chief
talk to me like a
doctor.
child.
You're not my
Or
dad.
Yeah.
It was.
Or even before that, the other doctor saying, "I've been doing this as long as you've been alive, son."
Yeah.
We have
Oh,
to
yeah.
establish
Yeah.
all this stuff
Pulling
very early.
rank and-
This
Yeah,
is all
the
very
16-year-old
important.
rage was necessary. We had to get that in there. Like,
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
not my real dad. You're just my boss. Like,
Which is
it's like your work dad.
arguably,
It's the same thing.
yeah, same
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Calm down, child.
Oh no. So then we get the most awkward thing in the world, right? Is it now? Is now the most awkward thing in the world?
It's pretty dang
Dinner?
close.
Dinner was pretty
No,
awkward.
is it
Yeah,
before dinner?
was weird.
The dancing.
No, the
No.
part, the surprise party.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
no, this is
after
before.
dinner.
This is before. We're at dinner. Dinner. The
Okay.
surprise
Yeah.
party is after
Dinner was first.
Is after dinner,
which is
alright.
weird. And you think about the order of things. Is this all
Yeah,
happening on his birthday? Continuity's a
fine.
Yeah.
problem.
It's fine. Don't even worry
Yeah, we'll
about it.
just ignore it.
So, so his birthday dinner. So he's trying to get the good car from his dad, and he's like, "Well, why can't you take your mother's car?" Which is like checkbox, check it off.
Mhm,
Here we
yep.
go.
Mhm.
So,
Dad sitcom.
Patriarch.
right after he got the way cool gift
Yeah.
of a
The
Calculator.
super calculator.
Yeah,
We
the
have to
super
establish
calculator.
how much
It's
of a nerd he is.
just what he wanted.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
Mhm.
It's an HP 28S
Hot damn.
scientific calculator.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
Ooh.
It had buttons on like the door and the thing. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
Mhm.
it was real good.
it was
I mean, it's no
killing it.
graphing calculator that I can use to play Snake, but
I don't have
Heck
to
yeah.
do. I mean, that established the fact that not only is he a nerd, but he enjoys being one. You know,
yeah.
Mhm.
it's not that he's just
Which I
like
get- I
I'm
mean, at the
burdened with
time,
genius. He
yeah.
really is a dork.
Wants to borrow the car, and his dad's like, "Yeah, why don't you take your mother's car? Get a few miles under your belt." We don't know what dad's car is. We just know it's better,
Right.
Yeah,
and not a
it's
ratty old station
DeLorean.
wagon. Yeah.
In
He
my
said it
head,
was a
canon,
Beamer
it's
or something,
DeLorean.
didn't
So
he?
then the biggest pouty moment of the whole thing, which is surprising given what happens later, but his mom brings out the cake, and then they sing happy birthday back when you could do that. And they and she's like, I'll blow out the candles and make a wish. And he's like, I already did.
Oh, there's the other trope. The other check the
Mhm.
box off for kid calling his parents by their first name.
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
He's got to test the boundaries. Kids are small velociraptors. They just
They
test.
are.
They just test
They
the
test
true.
the fence.
Yes.
That's what they do. And he's just a 16-year-old velociraptor.
Yep, and boy did he flip from this is the exact gift I wanted to I made a wish and David said no.
Everyone hates me. I might as well just go to work
Die.
Mhm.
Might as well go to work.
where people love me too much.
Too
Foreshadowing.
much.
Mhm.
Too much. Oh no.
Oh, that was
So, all right. So now's the part where he's working on that dude, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Right?
the
Sewing up
butt
the dude's
stitches.
butt?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which, first of all,
I would be mad too.
so this is the first real doctoring that we've seen him do.
Mhm.
sewing up some guy's butt who's very mad that he has a 16-year-old doctor, which I'm gonna go ahead and not fault him on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
I
also
mean,
be upset if I had a 16-year-old boy to sew up my like. All right, so now I like want to know what this guy did first of all. Um,
yeah. How did he end up in the ER?
yeah,
Like,
I mean
what were the chain
it's
of
the
events leading up
Seinfeld.
to that?
It's the Seinfeld 1 in a Million doc. I feel like, uh, but here we are, and but he's got his nurse buddy. You know, she's there helping out and she's like the voice of reason. So my favorite is that he knows and quotes all of the like legal stats
Mhm.
because he knows ahead of time what all of these people are going to say. Um
Yeah.
so that's pretty good. I also like that after he finishes stitching the guy up, they hold up a mirror so he can see.
He's got to check out the stitches.
Yeah,
Which
look
now
at your butt.
I will grant you that my only stitches have been like in my mouth for my teeth, but I feel like you probably don't just show people. It's not like a haircut. You're not like, ooh, let me show you the back.
I mean, you're not
Well,
gonna
I mean,
ask
you
to
could show them
redo
to
it.
me.
Yeah.
You could show
Yeah.
them to me. That doesn't mean I know they're good.
Yeah.
I don't know you did a
I'm
good
not gonna
job.
say
I'm just
saying
gonna
redo
be
those
horrified.
stitches. I'd like you to take those out. I don't like the way the last 4 are done, and be like, no, forget that. They don't do
Too late. I've already
stitches
taken my scrubs
anymore,
off.
hardly. It's all
So
staples.
yeah, staples and glue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Doogie's closing line of, well, the statute of limitations on medical malpractice is 3 years is quite good. I
Yeah.
did.
Oh, that's a great one.
That was
Mhm.
very
So
good. I mean,
deadpan delivered too. Like it was real,
yeah.
real good. NPH killed
Um,
that.
he was we didn't so this is like the opposite of the other shows that we've done, right? Where all of the teenage kids were definitely 30.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Right.
he did look small and adorable.
Yeah.
And
Well, he was
I
16. So
I
Mhm.
did buy issues of Teen Beat with him in them when I was young. And now I just wanna, like, make him a sandwich. Like, "Have you eaten?" Like, I looked at his room and I was like, "You need to clean your room, young man." And I was like, "Oh god, I'm 40.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I thought the same though. You can't live like this. You
Can't live like this.
this
It's
is not
not
okay.
okay.
I'm not
You have a
telling you for me. I'm
PhD."
telling you for you. You need to learn these skills.
Yeah, right? Like, great, you're a surgeon, but you cannot keep your room clean, and that's not okay. I do like that the Wikipedia article about this show like does make a point of the fact that he does still live with his parents, which is like, yes, he is
Of
16 years
course.
old.
right.
That actually comes up a couple episodes later.
Oh boy. So they're getting cleaned up after this little minor incident, and then things go to Cringeville hard. So hard. I was
Doogie,
like,
will you
"What am
walk
I
with me?
watching? What am I watching?"
As soon as she said, "Hey, I want to show you something," I'm like, "Oh, what is happening here? What
Yeah,
are
"Take a
what am
walk with me," and then takes his
Mhm.
hand, and I was like, "Oh, no. What are we doing? That is a child.
Yeah.
That is a child."
I was not okay. I was like, all the senses were going off. Like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and like, this is a pilot episode, everybody. Like,
this is what they were like showing the people. This is what the show is going to be like." But
Mhm.
again, when you learn that it's Stephen Bochco and David E. Kelly, now it sort of starts to make sense why they would go in that direction.
They only know how to
But-
write one story, and they just when they put a
Yeah.
16-year-old in there, they wrote the same story but didn't consider what they were doing.
Mhm.
Exactly.
mhm.
Like we'll just
It's
write
also
the same
one of those
adult
things-
drama, but we'll put a 16-year-old in the middle. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one of those things that was such a product of its time, but also if you role reverse that and it was a male nurse and a 16-year-old genius girl, oh
Oh,
boy,
boy.
is like that
Like,
just
that
red
never
flags all
makes
over the
it.
place.
Mhm.
So
This is
you know,
not yeah. So
There's
Nurse
that-
Spalding takes him into one of the, like, operating rooms, and so there was a point at which I was like, "Wait, is he dreaming?" Like, there was a
Yeah.
point at which I was like, "Wait, he's dreaming, like, he's having a teenage boy dream about the cute nurse that he works with." Like,
yeah.
If
that's
only.
that, like, definitely definitely his pants were not just removed. He's definitely dreaming right now, right?
No.
And
I
then
wish
and
he
then the
was.
lights come on and they're like, "Surprise, happy birthday." Like, what just happened?
And again, a credit to Neil Patrick Harris in that moment. His acting of that part, the
So good.
embarrassment and running out of that room was
Perfect.
fantastic.
So good. Um,
But I mean, what
none of that was
we just
okay,
witnessed
guys.
a fictionalized sexual harassment, like
Yeah.
like
Oh
and,
yeah.
and it was worse. It kept
Absolutely.
getting worse because I'm watching
Yeah.
it and I'm like, okay, they're in a room. Oh, she's seducing him. He's 16. Oh no, she's all up in his face, and then she drops his pants,
Mhm.
and I was
Mhm.
that's
That was the
when
point at which I was like, "This can't be
like
real.
this is
This
not
isn't real."
a
Like,
thing. This cannot
And when
happen.
everybody's up in the viewing area saying happy birthday, they all knew this was happening.
yeah,
Yeah,
this was
It's
the
like, yeah,
plan.
good idea. You make like you're seducing him, drop his pants, and then we'll say happy birthday.
what a great idea. And
Later, they say that this is because, like, they forget that he's 16, and I'm like, "I don't know that this works with adults either."
Right. It's not any
No.
better if it's an adult. Like I want the scene with the director of HR for the hospital who's
yeah,
catching wind of this in their office.
yeah.
He's just like,
Yeah.
what?
I forgot you were 16. That's why I sexually harassed you because it would be totally acceptable if you were older. My B.
Oh.
Please don't call HR.
Now, I mean, to Doogie's credit, he does get him back in pretty epic fashion.
Mhm.
But
Does.
no,
Now,
it's not equal. That's
it's
not
not
an
the
equal get back.
same.
Equal, no, but it's
Equal,
a
no,
great
but
get back.
Oh, it is a good get back.
It is
there's a
good.
vengeance there.
And it is a get back that reminds them pretty hard that he is in fact 16.
I was gonna
Mhm.
say,
That's a good point.
you want to
Yes.
prank a 16-year-old? You really want to? You really
No.
want to do that?
You don't want to go. You don't want none of that smoke.
No, they don't
Mm-mm.
have like
Mm.
judgment brain yet. They're
No.
just they just will
No.
do stuff
Not that they
without
did either,
thinking
but
about it.
yeah.
Yeah, true. The adults were not exactly in their frontal lobe
So,
needs some work too.
I mean, my
Mhm.
question is, so they're in the morgue for that part, and do surgeons spend a lot of time in the morgue?
When the
I mean, it's
plot
my
calls for it.
understanding
Right.
that
Yeah.
they got people for that. Like, I do like
Nurses
he
work
makes
on
an
living.
offhanded comment to the other resident that it was probably one of his dudes. I
Yes.
was like, that was pretty low. Wow.
I
Um,
mean, they established that kind of friendly rivalry right away with
yeah,
those two.
Mhm.
yeah, right. And it's not the like butting heads, you're not my dad of
Mhm.
the senior doctor. It is very sibling
Yeah,
sort of.
brotherly.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
so they get back at them by Vinny in his monster mask and Claw jumping out, and he's supposed to be a dead body, and that is pretty good. That's a pretty
Mhm.
good
That
prank.
mask was pretty dang
Which
terrifying.
Yeah.
the
I'm not
mask
gonna lie.
was, and the mask was established a couple of
Yes.
scenes earlier when he did
Yeah,
it to
when Vinny climbed
Doogie.
in the
So
window.
A well-written little scene there. You see what they did?
Yeah, it was
They
not
set
bad.
it
Yeah, I
up,
guess
then
it's
they
pretty
knocked
good.
it down later. Good
Mhm.
job. Good job.
Schrodinger's monster mask. Um, and so it was so we go to the dance. All right, so we're at the dance. So we see him getting ready for the dance. Okay, Tone Loc,
All
first
right.
of all.
I wrote that down too.
Like,
Yes, please.
specifically, this is Tone Loc, but it's only a tiny little bit of Tone Loc because you can't play the rest of it on TV. But we're just
Mhm.
gonna loop it because it loops just fine.
Yep.
it does.
And I was like, this is Tone Loc. I had to look it up. Wild Thing did come out in 1988, so this
Mhm.
was,
Yep.
Yeah.
you would
Whatever
have been
happened to that
grooving
guy?
to it.
He had such a good run.
It
He's
does a lot of
still
that
touring.
music. Oh, yeah, a
Really?
lot of the verses don't hold up
Think so,
so
yeah.
great now, but
No, the lyrics don't hold up so great, but no,
not
he's
so
still
great.
touring. He came to my hometown for a summer festival a few years ago.
Nice.
He was like
Mhm.
one of the headliners of it.
He was
That's
great
how
in
far he's
Blank
fallen.
Check, another movie about weird pedophilia. There's a theme here. Wherever
The
Toad
Hollywood
Loke goes,
Leave
he's like,
Children Alone challenge.
Toad Loke's like,
Just
quit
leave the
casting me
children
in
alone.
weird children and adult stuff.
Doogie getting ready for the dance was really cute.
Yeah.
I did like that. I like this is like a weird, but he did have like the cartoon character boxer shorts on.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you gotta. I mean, they weren't hearts, but they might as well have been.
Mhm.
Dude, you thought that this could be it, and that's what you picked, huh?
This is
All
the
right,
night.
buddy. Okay,
Yeah.
bud.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Fine.
hammering home that he's a 16-year-old in 1989. Like,
Yes.
Fine.
You're 16. This
That's
is
fine.
one of the things that's so weird about the show. And like, I always thought I'd appreciate it more if they had 16-year-olds playing 16-year-olds. But I'm kind of glad Ferris Bueller stars like 24-year-old
Yeah.
adults. Because it's
Yeah.
weird. It just, your
It's
whole
not-
brain just connects in
I'm
a
like, I
different
don't
way.
wanna. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just loses that you're not okay with like the innocence being exploited somehow. It just, there's a
No.
break there. So now I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think Greatest American Hero. Those people are way too old, but maybe it's
That's 'cause
okay.
we're our age. Like,
Yeah, leave her 35.
those
That's a
kids have
little high.
mortgages.
Mhm. They're a
Um.
little older, but didn't feel so bad when she tried to seduce her teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go. Yeah. Well,
what
they're like,
were-
she's like 3 years older than he is. It's fine.
yeah, that's the thing. If your actors that are playing the high school students shouldn't look older than the high school teacher. That's
Yes.
the line there.
You got to have that. Something's got to distinguish who the kids are.
Yep.
So we get to the dance, and it is a dance in 1989. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
Shoulder pads as far as the eye can see.
Oh boy.
On
So
everybody.
Doogie's chilling while everybody's dancing, and Vinny comes over and he's like, "Hey, did you do it?" And no, it turns up Vinny threw up again all over the girl's dress, which she's in the bathroom getting cleaned up. And let me tell you, yeah, no, you would be taking me home. There is no we are no longer
Mhm.
enjoying this evening. Any
Not at
enjoyment
all.
in the evening is long gone.
You're not
Mhm.
cleaning that off. Like that's
No,
not gonna
not
happen.
out of
What-
1989.
You're not cleaning that
off.
off and going in front of anybody at that school at all.
No, you're done. Your
No,
night is
you're
over.
done.
Thank you, Vinny.
Because no one saw him throw up, but everybody sees you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's gonna brush his teeth and move on with his evening.
Yeah.
Which it was funny. He shows up, talks about it, and starts wiping off his mouth. I was like, ew.
Ew.
Yuck. Yuck.
Gross. So Doogie's little girlfriend comes back from the bathroom, presumably, because that's what girls do. And a slow song comes on. She's like, Doogie, can we dance to this one? Doogie, this is it.
Yeah.
Because Doogie had a plan. It was planned out. He had the
Mhm.
plan.
Mhm.
Stick to the plan. Don't smell girls. Just don't. Like, just don't.
And at
smell
least not
girls.
like a puppy going,
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
smell girls. Don't. I feel like I need to do a PSA based off of every teenage boy shown in a television show. And I mean, like, all right, look at you. See this? Don't do this.
Don't
just a clip of, I'm going to do this. And you're like, don't.
yeah.
Don't.
It's like don't sniff
I can make a whole
girls.
TikTok.
You're
account. Wait a minute.
going to smell them because that's how smell works. But
They
don't
smell good.
sniff them.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't
sniff them.
a girl.
Like,
Actually,
your
don't
hair
let
smells
anyone
nice.
sniff you. You just
Yeah.
just
Your hair
don't
smells
sniff
nice. It's like a weird. Yeah.
it.
It's a weird pick. There's a lot of compliments, and maybe not that one though.
Certainly not the one you lead with somebody that you're not already familiar with.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Right.
if I switch shampoo and like somebody I'm close to is like, hey, your hair smells nice. Like, that's great. I got a new shampoo. It's that
Mhm.
Herbal Essences.
It's
But,
like taking note of a change is a good thing. You know, taking
That's
note.
fine.
But just out of the gate, like, I've always thought your hair smelled really good. It's kind of weird.
Not good. And and so
But sniffing hair wasn't the worst.
No. So then he does lick her ear, kind of, which that's that. I mean, if I'm listing things, I feel like licking ears is above kissing on the like intimacy scale.
It does
Like,
feel like that, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, like if I'm gonna rank things, I feel like that one's kind of high.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think using your tongue for anything is more invasive.
yeah.
Like
But he's like, you know, if she doesn't get upset at that, then I'm gonna kiss her, which is fine.
which it is solid logic.
I
I
mean,
will
yeah,
say that. Like, that is
like
solid logic. If
he's
she doesn't
licking
get upset, yeah.
here
Yes.
instead of down here.
Doogie the Velociraptor licks
Yeah.
the electric fence before kissing it.
We find Doogie is smart in some ways and not so smart
Ooh.
in other ways.
You gotta
Well,
have the
he was very
balance.
busy and didn't have time to
Mhm.
figure out that he shouldn't do these things.
It's in medical school. How's he supposed to date?
Also, yeah, and it doesn't help that Vinny is his best friend. So, like, you're not getting good
No,
advice
Vinny is
from that
not.
guy.
Yeah.
No, and this is before you could just learn things on the internet for better or worse.
Vinny would just walk in your
Um,
door and go, "Who did you sex yesterday?" And you're like, "That's not even how you use that word, Vinny." Like,
Not that word.
also you
That's
could say
not-
"Good afternoon" or something.
Hi, how are
Start
you?
How's it
start with a
going?
greeting. Just
That is Vinny's character in this
How
show.
did he put it? How did he put it though? Because he didn't say she puts out, but it was not that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't remember exactly how he phrased it, and I was like, no,
mm-mm.
not
No.
okay.
Mhm.
And so he does kiss her, and she is into it, and no 16-year-old has ever kissed like that in the history of time, outside of television, but that's fine.
Right.
And then Doogie gets paged. Now, I want to talk about how terrible the people at the hospital that he works with are. Because I'm going to say that there's no reality in which they did not know that he was going to this dance. And they paged him anyway, just to tell him the little brother died. The little fella, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. And we do get another trope, and it's not a teenage trope. This time it's a medical drama trope, and it's the we are going to punch the locker.
Yeah.
Which
Mhm.
every
Mhm.
medical
Yep.
drama in the history of ever has had that scene.
A few times.
Yeah. Yeah, but you've just like those lockers, they go through a lot.
But some of
Mhm.
them, the punches feel more organic than this punch felt. This one felt like acting.
It was his
Mhm.
first one, all right?
Okay, he's working.
He didn't know.
Explosive anger from a 16-year-old just off-putting to me for whatever reason. Just
I feel like
like
he would have just like
slow
kicked
down.
his shoe across the room.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know what
Not
it is. I can't get on board with. I'm like, calm down. Be reasonable.
yeah. They worked on him for an hour. And there was nothing that anyone could do. So Doogie goes home, and Doogie's in bed, and Doogie's very sad, and all of this is fine. And his dad, who's also a doctor, in case we didn't mention that, comes in to talk to him about it. And I get the feeling from this scene, which is perfectly fine. His dad is perfectly fine in this scene, but I do feel like he would not talk to his son if his son were not also a doctor. Right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
he's the kind of dad that would like they could play catch twice a year, in the backyard.
Because earlier in the show, when him and Vinny are talking about kissing the girls at the thing, his dad comes in and is like, "What are y'all talking about?" And Vinny just tells him, "Oh, we're talking about kissing girls." And he's like,
He just
backs
wanders out of the room.
room.
I'm
Doesn't
gonna
say a word. He's like,
I'm gonna
"I don't know how to handle this.
just back
Goodbye."
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a real ask your mom kind of guy.
Yeah.
But this is okay. This is doctor stuff.
Mhm.
We can handle doctor stuff because the first time I lost a patient, I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Great. Very humanizing. And I appreciate that, sir. Doctor, sir.
No, I thought that was
Um,
a good moment. Like the way they buttoned up that
Yeah.
doctor kid story anyway that neither of them won. I think that was
Right.
important. Like
Yeah.
this old doctor and Doogie were both wrong because the kid died early. due
Yeah.
to a
Mhm.
seizure. And I was really happy for that because I think either wait, hold on. Let me reverse how that came out. Backpedal. I think that it's a tragedy in this fictional story. Let's,
Yes.
but it's
But yes, it was handled well.
right. It was handled in such a way that Doogie didn't win. He didn't win. Sometimes you just lose him, and there's no right answer. And I think that was good because it didn't vilify anybody.
Right.
Nobody
No, it
nobody
didn't.
lost.
It didn't, and there was even that moment where he says, looks like we both,
Yeah.
nobody could have done anything. I'm so sorry, Dr. Hauser. And it
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
feel like that didn't feel patronizing either.
No.
He was legitimately saying that to him, and that I liked that because that humanized him as a character who the only other time we've seen him has been like, I'm the old man and I know things, and so that was nice. That
There
was
was
well
a
done.
respect
Again,
there.
that's your
Yeah.
that's your Bochco and Kelly writing though. They can write that stuff. It's just then they also write 16-year-old getting seduced by the nurse.
It's all on display.
You get-
You got some trade-offs
it's a whole package.
It's-
You get one, you get both.
You get what you get. And I'm trying to think how's it end? Wait a minute. Is that the
Dad
end?
leaves, and then he goes
Oh,
and
and
does
then he
his
writes
little...
in his
journal entry.
diary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kissed my first girl, lost my first patient. Life will never be the same.
Yeah.
That's
Which
a
was
lot.
hard. It was, yeah. The one thing I will say though that I did note, and I'm sure you all noticed this too, is they're doing the close up of the screen and we're
Mhm.
watching the words,
Mhm.
but then we have to his typing has to wait for the
Wait
camera
for
to
them
move
to turn
back,
over.
and I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, nobody types that way, but
Nobody
that's
types
fine.
that way.
I'll let it go because nobody knew computers in 1989.
Fine.
We had no idea. They could either
wasn't a
do
better way to
crazy things or barely anything. There was no
Yes.
accurate
Mhm.
portrayal. You're
Yeah.
either making war games or you're typing on a word processor.
Yep.
Those are your two options.
So how do we feel about this as a pilot episode? Like, are you picking up this show? Like, are you like, okay, all right. Like, where do you stand on this as a pilot episode?
If I was sitting down now to watch this show, I'm intrigued. Like, I know Audie's been stuck. I'm intrigued enough that I think if this was coming on nightly on a classic TV channel that I just had on, I would turn it on. I'd be like, oh snap, I gotta see what happens to Doogie this week. See who's invading his personal space inappropriately again. And see if Vinny ever gets laid. I mean, those are two questions I need answered because Vinny's trying real hard. For
Pretty sure I can answer at least one of those for you.
By the way, did anybody else notice that you recognize faces in this show like everywhere and can't place them? Because both the girl he danced with and Vinny, I'm like, who is that? They look so familiar.
Vinny, I followed from this show to the movie Newsies. He's like,
Okay.
What's his name's one of why can I not think of his name?
I don't
The
know.
actor who played Batman.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Like he's one of his BFFs in that movie.
Yeah.
And then now he's been in other stuff recently, like Boardwalk Empire and some other stuff. But you wouldn't recognize him like that because he has grown to a very chiseled adult face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like it looks like well worn,
Yeah.
not bad, but just like
he's probably
Dude
having
will mess
better
you
luck
up.
with women these days, is what you're saying.
much better, I would think.
Yeah. Good.
Pretty sure.
Good for him.
As long as he doesn't vomit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
that's
vomit's
true.
a deal breaker.
No more puking,
regardless of
Vinny.
how you look.
It could be that I remember some of these people from Doogie Howser and just don't know it, when your brain has a connection but you can't place it. Maybe that's what it was.
That
He was in
could
The
be it.
Sopranos too.
Could be.
That
He's
That was
also
the
the
other one,
voice of
Sopranos.
That could be it.
he's also the voice of Daxter from the Jack and Daxter series.
Well, how
Mhm.
about that? Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't
Eh,
know.
Bunch of Courage, the Cowardly Dog.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, I recognized him. I remembered him. Like I mentioned Neil Flynn already.
Mhm.
James Sicking is Doogie Howser's dad. Anytime I would see him, that's all I could think of. And Lisa, the girl that played Wanda, Lisa Dean Ryan, has been in some other stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of one of those character actors.
Maybe that's what it
And-
is. They're just in things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of these, that's what they are. Like
Yeah.
his boss, I definitely have seen him around TV and recognize
Yep.
him immediately. So
I think this
Yeah.
dude looks like the cake boss. I think that's why. I think that's why he looks so familiar. He and the cake boss favor each other a lot. That's where it is. I figured it out.
There you go.
I mean, I would say that as pilots go, this was all right. It didn't immediately hook me. It was enough that I did watch the next episode, which, by the way, if you think that this one has some cringe to it, the second episode goes even
I feel
harder
like
into
we have
that.
to like mention like I read the description of episode
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
gotta-
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Steven, do you know anything about episode 2?
No.
Okay, you're gonna love this. So episode
Buckle up.
2, a new radiologist comes to the hospital, right? And she's like a 40-year-old woman. She's just gorgeous, and she wants a child, and she wants Doogie Howser's DNA to have a child.
And that's how she puts it.
That's how
wants
she
his
puts it to him.
DNA.
She asks him out on a date. They go to dinner, and at dinner on a first date, she brings this up, which does have like a great moment where Doogie does say like, well, it's a lot for a first date.
Which
Yeah.
it is.
No kidding.
Regardless of the fact that one
But
of them
her-
is 16.
Yeah.
her idea, and the thing about it is, her idea is that it's going to be an artificial insemination, and his thought is, no, this woman wants me.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Okay.
you've got
None of
that whole
that is
thing going on.
So there's
That's
you,
not-
you're
none of it is okay.
misunderstanding comedy
Yeah,
trope
because
there.
she assumes he's a 16-year-old genius. He's just Mr. Intellectual, and she's
Yeah.
wrong. Very wrong.
It's
Never
so that's
assume
the
anything about 16.
that's the second episode of the series. So it's one of those where it like I said, it was fine. I'm not gonna rush out to watch it. I'm not binging through like I have been with Batman, or watching a bunch more Alf, or any of that, or whatnot. But it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't one of those where I'm like, I never want to watch another episode of Doogie Howser. I'd watch more.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna trip over myself to do it.
Mhm.
Studio executive Travis is not buying this one.
Probably not. No.
I just want to go to the writer's room at the time when they're coming up with these weird ideas, and like, are they just sitting there going, well, the age of consent is 16, so it's not technically an
You
illegal
that there's
proposition.
somebody that's
It had to have come up.
definitely knows.
Mhm.
It
Look,
can't-
all writers' rooms, every writer's room for a TV series anywhere needs to have somebody sitting there with a rolled up newspaper that when somebody comes up with a bad idea, you just hit them in the nose and say, no.
Okay, but technically, no.
If only.
yeah.
What about you, Audie? How did you feel this went as a pilot?
I think it's okay. Two things that, one, I'm kind of biased because I remember the show enough that I'm like, yes, I want to watch more of this. Second thing is, we talked about this before. I watched the new
Yes.
show that is, let me make sure I get this pronunciation right. It is Doogie Kamealoha MD. And they basically, Disney Plus has rebooted it, set it with a 16-year-old girl who lives in Hawaii. At the very beginning, they mentioned the Doogie thing as a show. Like, this isn't like in the same universe. Doogie
Yeah.
Howser is the show. And so she is nicknamed Doogie. Because
All
of that.
right. All right.
Okay.
But she
Okay,
hates
alright.
it. She
Sure.
hates it. The pilot of that is almost one for one with this pilot.
Oh, that's fun.
They start out with her driving test. She goes and fixes somebody's leg. She has a patient with a heart issue. This time it's an old man, and it's who was it? It was Barry Bostwick, which was just
Oh,
amazing.
nice.
So
Nice.
she's dealing with going to a dance, like all the setup, none of the cringe. None of the cringe.
Well,
None of
no.
anybody seducing her. The interesting thing they change up is her mom is her boss,
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. All
okay.
right.
which
Throw
sets up
extra
some
little
interesting
wrinkle in
things. I watched the next episode too, and it's like they flip flopped between her mom is her boss and she's angry about it, and then on the next episode, her mom is his boss and she's glad to have that kind
Sure.
of thing.
That's-
I like the new one a lot better
Is
Yeah.
it a
because
drama?
it doesn't have. It's a drama. I mean, it's a drama, but it's realistic. Kind of like Doogie Howser, but not as cringe. Like, there's not the cringe factor there. She also has two brothers, so it's a larger family.
Sure.
Her dad is Jason Scott Lee. and he basically is cool dad and eating up the scenery with that, but in a good
Okay.
way. Like, it's not off-putting. It works for me. Like, they they take it to the level of seriousness it needs to be, but she's still very much 16-year-old girl. And that's not lost on anybody. I think that's the thing that's better, that they handled better in the new one. It's
Yeah,
not lost on anybody that she's still a 16-year-old girl. She's still super genius doctor, but she's still super 16-year-old girl. And then instead of typing in a journal, she does a vlog kind of thing.
sure.
That makes sense.
The series of
So
TikToks about today's.
yeah. But being like having the same bones for
Yeah,
both pilots, like structurally almost entirely the same, I was like, okay, this works as a pilot when done well. Now they did it a lot better on
yeah,
Disney. And I think it goes back to what Travis was saying about the creators of this show, Stephen Bochco and David E. Kelly.
yeah.
Like, we asked earlier who this show is for, and I think it's more for adults, but they still make it kid accessible almost, like
Sure.
16-year-old accessible. So yeah, I'd say it's a good pilot, handled right. It was handled okay in 89. I think it's handled better now.
It's
And
kind
I
of,
would say I would recommend you watch the Disney Plus one much more than the Neil Patrick Harris one.
I'll give that a
Unless you've
try.
got that, unless you've got the nostalgia for Doogie Howser, because I think that's about the only reason I was watching more of it. Just
Yeah,
seeing the nostalgia of it.
I think they knew that the certain things were going to go over kids' heads. It's just, I think it's disappointing that the pilot just goes straight for the hormonal 16-year-old boy when a 16-year-old boy has an enormous amount of things going on
Mhm.
that they
sure.
could exploit. That is not like, oh, boys just want to be in bed with women all day. It's like, no, there's sometimes life's just complicated because it is, man. Like sometimes homework, sometimes, your band's playing a show and your mom says you can't go. You got all kinds of weird scenarios going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I
Not when you're a PhD.
it's just so,
Yeah, I watched a few more episodes. It is just more of that. It's
yeah.
just
Yeah,
I think that's the other thing too. It was more of the same, just a different flavor.
Yeah.
So like we know Doogie went through high school in 9 weeks, but what about Vinny? Is he
oh,
going to
he's still
school?
there.
Like,
Yeah, I
doesn't he
think
have
that's how
school
he.
to
I
be
think
at?
that's how, like,
Well,
I
that's where
think
the
that's how
dance
Doogie
is.
wound up at the dance.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know what I mean?
It just seems like he spent an inordinate amount of time around Doogie at the hospital. But maybe that's just me,
I mean, what else does it
Yeah.
got going on? They've been
I
friends
guess.
since they were
The
fucking.
whole throwing up in front of girls is apparently a running gag with Vinny too. So
Just to make sure he
Vinny.
never gets anywhere with women. It's just
Mhm.
so we
Right.
don't have to broach that subject in Doogie
I mean,
Howser.
because he's a cute kid. Like,
Sure.
he's a cute
Mhm.
kid. He would otherwise maybe not have a problem having a
Mhm.
nice time with the girl.
Oh, that was another one with the second episode. So in the second episode, Vinny comes in and immediately is like, Doogie, I've got a problem. I'm an addict. And Doogie's like, whoa, dude, we'll get you help. We'll get you to the rehab. What is it? Is
Yeah.
it drugs? Is it alcohol? What? He goes, no, it's sex. I'm addicted to sex. It's all I can think about all the time, 24/7. And Doogie's like, yeah, dude, that's normal. You're 16. And he pulls out a textbook where it's like males reach their peak between the ages of like 16 and 20, and women between like the 35 and 45. And then Vinny's like, oh, so it's just the fact that I'm 16. He's like, yeah, it's the fact that you're 16 and you're male. He's like, and I'm Italian. So and like that was that whole moment. And he goes,
Mhm.
great. So that means I got to wait for my girlfriend. What am I going to do till 2009?
Yeah.
It also sets up that if they went for that, it sets up why the older woman would be looking at Doogie. But I guess that's also, you said it
Mhm.
was a science.
Mhm.
It was a science thing with her, not necessarily
Yeah.
I want to hang out with you business. It wasn't a Big Lebowski scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. It was not.
He's a good man and thorough.
He's very thorough.
So, do we have anything else? Or are we ready to talk about what happens next week? Because we're done with pilots. We have covered all of the
We have covered
pilots.
pilots. we did ask on Twitter, for feedback
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah.
Doogie Howser, and we got one bit of feedback, and it was from Michael Miller at Joe Uncool on Twitter, who responded when we said, "Hey, what do you think about Doogie Howser? Do you remember it?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've been busy watching the '60s Batman, and it's all your fault."
Mm,
So
mm.
So maybe,
Thank
but
you,
too
citizen.
distracted with Batman.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
fine.
and honestly, I
Don't
don't
be
blame
mad
him.
about that. That's a
Yeah.
better way to spend your time, honestly.
So next week we're
Yeah.
kicking off a new month of shows, and we are going to move to Saturday morning cartoons.
All
Yeah.
right.
And I'm
Yes.
excited about this. I spent a lot of time looking over Saturday. I was dead set on making sure that what I chose was a cartoon that played on Saturday morning. So I
I've not been as
found,
thorough, but we're just gonna roll with it.
and that's fine, but I found, like, I was looking at network affiliate schedules, because you could find those on like Wikipedia from year to year and what played. And I went total dork on this. But next week we are going to be talking about Garfield and
Oh
Friends,
man,
Oh, yes.
One of
which
my
is
favorite.
I loved it.
definitely one of my
Mhm.
favorite Saturday morning cartoons.
Heck
So we're
yeah.
going to be talking about that. In fact, talk about Garfield for a minute while I find out which episode we are watching,
Nice.
because I don't remember now.
I know
Yeah.
I wasn't
So
a
if you
huge.
don't,
Oh, go ahead, Audie.
I was going to say, if you don't remember Garfield and Friends, there's a reason it's Garfield and
And
Friends.
Friends.
Because it's not just Garfield
Nope.
and Odie and Nermal. It's a whole other cast of characters in a
Acres.
whole other
Mhm.
different place that are hilarious.
They were real good.
Yeah, the
The
U.S. Acre stuff was great, and it was created for the series.
Mhm.
yeah.
That might have been my
I mean,
favorite
So
the
we are.
part.
Garfield Christmas special remains one of my favorite Christmas
Oh,
specials.
absolutely. And I read the comic strip growing up a lot. I had a lot of the Garfield
And the
books.
book,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
I had a
So
lot
And
of
Jim
them.
so
Davis inspired a lot of people.
I
boy
now as an
howdy.
adult, now I enjoy Arbuckle or
Mhm.
Garfield minus Garfield, depending on
Right.
whose version of it it
Yes.
is, but it's the same thing, and it's just we've just edited out Garfield, and it's a story of a very, very sad man.
It is quite brilliant.
Real
So
good.
we're going to be watching Garfield and Friends. It is streaming free on Tubi.tv. We're going to be watching season 4, episode 4.
All right.
So if you want to
Nice.
watch the same one that we're watching, that is the one.
Is there a special
Um,
reason that you picked season 4, episode 4?
Nope, it was literally the first one that popped up on random on Tubi, and I
Amazing.
watched it and I was like, "That was good. Let's go with it." So
All right.
because really,
Nice.
we'll talk about it, but with Garfield, there wasn't like these big overarching stories. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was purely like, it was very much a comic strip put to motion, and I love it for that. But yeah, Garfield
Mhm.
and Friends, season 4, episode 4, to kick off Saturday morning cartoons month.
I'm so excited.
I feel
Yes.
like I need to have a
Get
bowl
your
of Fruity Pebbles while I
Yeah,
watch.
Yep, I was
exactly. I
gonna
want
say,
my
get
Fruit
your
Loops and my
sugary
jammies.
cereal.
Yeah,
It'll
because
be
your
so
Get your
good.
brain
sugary
has to be
cereal and your
vibrating
PJs.
at a certain frequency to properly engage the cartoon. Like you can't
Yes.
watch this with your coffee. You know, like that's not gonna happen. You got to have marshmallow filled cereal. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's part of a balanced breakfast that would be a balanced breakfast without the cereal.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Here's
Uh-huh.
some cereal
Mhm.
and toast and a banana and an orange and some apples and maybe some zucchini. That's
Juice
balance.
and
There you
yeah.
go.
Yep. And then a bowl
Mhm.
of sugary cereal. I loved that it's always part of this complete breakfast, and nobody ever ate any of that other stuff. You
No.
just had the bowl of cereal
And they
Yeah.
put
and
in
then
that
drink the
clear
sugary
bowl
milk.
with the milk was like this high, and the rest of it was cereal. You're like, there's no
That's
milk
not a
in.
good
What are
ratio.
you doing? Nobody makes cereal like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
No one has ever had a bowl of cereal that looks like that.
No, ever in the history of cereal.
Oh, good.
Yep, I'm ready. It's gonna be good stuff.
So when you do watch Garfield and Friends, and we want to hear from you. So the Twitter is at Those Days Show. Send us a tweet. Let us know what you thought of Garfield and Friends, or those were the days show at gmail.com. Send us an email. Our inbox is very lonely and sad, and we
It
want
is.
emails. So send them, please.
Yeah, we paid good free money to put up that Gmail. We want to use it.
That's right.
One more password I have to
Mhm.
remember. Let's,
Yeah, we're gonna
let's
start
not.
emailing you people from that account.
We're
Start
coming for ya.
soliciting for stuff.
Hey, what'd you think about the show?
Yeah.
Nothing shady though.
So you
Really?
haven't
What'd you
And
emailed
that
me yet.
And that is going to kick off our Saturday morning cartoons month. We're also going to start our poll next week for what will
Yes.
follow Saturday morning cartoons. So stay
Mhm.
tuned for that as well,
We will be
because that
able to
poll will
pick
be going up.
the next topic, which is
Mhm.
very exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
we got some good ones. I'm ready for that. Let's go.
Mhm.
we're bad ending a show, guys. So, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to everybody in the live chat for joining us for another episode of Those Were the Days, and we will see you next week.